Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Canopy Cafe on Thursday, June 18th of 2020. My name is Ben Smock. I'm the Director of Development with Canopy. Canopy is the startup nonprofit organization that is growing Kentucky companies to positively impact people, our planet, and our future. We have started hosting these Canopy Cafes, casual conversations with leaders in the good business movement during the coronavirus pandemic, and as a way to stay connected and to share stories of good business and people that are working in that regard throughout Kentucky. And since we have pivoted to dedicate the Canopy Cafe times to focus on listening and responding to our community, specifically in support of racial justice and Black communities. Canopy acknowledges the deep racial inequalities that exist around us, and we as an organization and individuals stand with these efforts to combat injustices in concrete material ways. And these Canopy Cafes are one way in which we're uplifting voices of leaders in our community. Today, we have a very special guest, a longtime friend of Canopy, all-around wonderful person, Lettie Johnson. And we'll bring her on here in just a minute. But before we do, I want to introduce my esteemed colleague, Alex Page. She is Canopy's Certified Program Specialist, and she is going to fill us in on the latest in good business news. So Alex, welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday, even though it doesn't really feel like a Thursday.
The days are blurring together.
Right. So I have two big news headlines today. The first one is, so on Wednesday, June 17th, it was announced that Andy Beshear appointed Marta Miranda Straub, who is one of Canopy's close friends, to be the new commissioner of the Cabinet's Department for Community-Based Services. So to shorten that, I'm going to call it DCBS in the future. So DCBS is a Kentucky Human Services agency with more than 4,400 employees throughout the state. DCBS administers states' food benefits, child care and welfare assistance, child and adult protection programs, and foster and adoption programs, and just everything in that realm. So Marta is the former director of the Center for Women and Families, and also has a background at Spalding, where she taught practice, policy, and addiction courses at the School of Social Work. And in 2019, she actually helped lead the School of Social Work's first social justice conference, which is really cool. So she's going to take over this new position on July 1st. And it's just really great to hear that such an awesome person has been appointed to such an important and impactful role, where I really think she's going to do a lot of good in this state.
Absolutely. And like you said, Alex, Marta is a wonderful friend of Canopy, an all-around just leader in every way that you can define that word. So I'm so excited for her and for Kentucky, and Canopy is too.
Yeah, same here. It's awesome. Just such good news to hear about. So the other headline that I have is, so tomorrow is June 19th, and it's a day called Juneteenth, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard of, and maybe some haven't. But it's the anniversary of the day in 1865 when a general read out Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation in Texas. So this freed slaves into a portion of the last unemancipated state in the U.S. Recently, there's been a huge push for this to be celebrated as a national holiday. So a lot of companies like Adobe, Google, Lyft, Nike, I could go on, have given their employees the day off to be able to respect this holiday and reflect upon how impactful of a day it was 155 years ago. So right now, only 47 out of 50 states and the District of Columbia recognize Juneteenth as an official state holiday. But so far, no president has supported declaring Juneteenth as a federal holiday. Last year, the U.S. Senate did pass a resolution recognizing Juneteenth Independence Day as a national holiday, but has not yet been approved in the House. So we'll see if it gets passed. Canopy has personally taken the day off tomorrow to be able to honor the day. And just as a tenet of good business, we would widely recommend that all businesses consider giving their employees a day off in the future if they haven't done so already.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alex. Really important news. I hope everybody has, in the way that they feel most appropriate, a wonderful Juneteenth, and support and commemorating the ending of slavery in the United States. And so that's very important. And thank you for sharing, Alex. And we'll see you next time with the news updates next week.
Sounds good. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, Alex. Take care. So our guest today, as I mentioned, is Lettie Johnson. And Lettie is a wonderful friend to Canopy. She's been working with us for quite some time. We've hosted events at where she has her office at Launch Louisville. Last Friday was her birthday, so for those of you who know Lettie, please extend birthday wishes to her. Lettie is the founder and CEO of Gifted by Design, and Gifted by Design is a forward-thinking personal and professional development consulting firm. Lettie founded Gifted by Design and consulting, leadership and consulting after spending many years discovering her purpose, passion, and her desire to help grow people and organizations. And if you've met her, you know that this is just what she's all about, helping people and helping organizations and doing amazing work. And so now I would love to welcome to the show, Lettie Johnson.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning.
Hi, Lettie, how are you?
I'm doing well, Ben. How are you?
Doing just fine, doing just fine. It's so nice to see your face virtually.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me to be on the show and to just share, you know, whatever I know.
I don't know if we have enough time in the show for that. Well, Lettie, you know, welcome. You know, you participated in the Canopy Cafe, you know, a few months ago. You know, we were doing it live on Instagram, and you know, a lot has changed since then. But first and foremost, you know, want to offer you the opportunity. Please share with our audience, you know, a little bit about you and Gifted by Design.
Yeah, so thank you, Ben. That's a great question and just a great opportunity for me to just kind of share my heart. So Gifted by Design was specifically, it was created out of the need for the work that I was doing with Dr. Cosby over at St. Stephen Church and Simmons College of Kentucky. And one of the things that we noticed as we were going along and doing our work is that many people, for various reasons, did not necessarily fulfill their full potential, and or even feel like they had access to do so through education, through basic needs, through this holistic life. And so Gifted by Design, specifically, what we do is we disrupt thought patterns as well as behaviors to help people to reach their full potential. And my work specifically is doused in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I work with a number of organizations as well as people to really help them to cultivate the culture and environment that is needed so that they can grow their organizations as well as grow their leadership. So it is absolutely a pleasure every day to be able to work alongside individuals who are committed to doing the work and making the impact.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so you touched on a little bit, you know, some of your personal experiences early in your career and how this really positioned you to lead Gifted by Design. And, you know, specifically with your work as it pertains to DE&I within the workplace, you know, tell us a little bit about, you know, how you're working alongside Canopy. I know you and Alex and El Shaddai and the team have been working on some of the points of inquiry with the Canopy certified program.
Yeah, so you know, as far as curriculum and content, I think that it's really important to frame what do we mean when we talk about DE&I, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's one thing to be diverse. It's a whole nother thing to be inclusive. And it's a whole nother platform to be equitable, right? And so when we look at that, right, there's some education that has to be done around that. And I know, you know, Canopy is doing a phenomenal job. I've kind of been following along with the campaign, the 27 campaign, and the work and the education that you guys are doing alongside of that campaign. It's extremely important because I think people feel like because, you know, they have a statement that therefore makes their organization in alignment with being diverse and being equitable. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, right? One of the things that I'm a huge advocate for is that once we know, there is a author out, his name is William Darity. He talks specifically about reparations, and but before you can get to reparations, there has to be some acknowledgement that takes place. And not only the acknowledgement of the injustices, but the acknowledgement that we are going to create a very inclusive and intentional culture. And I think that's the job of a leader, right? The job of a leader is to inspire and to motivate and to really help educate and advocate on behalf of people who may not necessarily know how to advocate on their own behalf. So I think that's truly important. But specifically, the work that we've been doing with Canopy is just kind of helping with the alignment of that, right? To be able to help companies and small businesses to understand that it's not enough to say that you're diverse, right? But to really look at the deep pockets of protocol, processes, policies, and hold them accountable to what that looks like. You can't say that you're inclusive when you're not really listening. Right. And I think that's extremely important to the work that we're doing in terms of DE&I.
Absolutely. That's well said, Lettie. And some of the guidance that we've been offering to companies that have signed the letter of intent to pursue the Canopy certified program is very aligned with what you've just said. Acknowledging inequities, offering support for our Black communities, and articulating the action steps that you and your organization are taking. So making a statement is important, but then how you continue to take action and look internally is just as important, arguably more so, because you need to really create that internal policy and procedure to ensure that you are walking the walk and doing the right things to approach that diverse, equitable, and inclusive culture. And we all have opportunities to improve in that regard, right? Canopy's working on that. We're helping our partners understand that we are all at different spaces along that spectrum, and it's okay. And we just all need to commit to having the conversations and commit to moving forward, and we can accomplish some great things, truly.
Yeah, I think, Ben, I think that a lot of this is built on trust, right? It's easy for you and I to have a conversation in regards to this because we have a relationship. And I think, it's extremely important for businesses to understand that you have to be intentional about building relationships and not make assumptions about people's experiences. Right. And just because I'm a Black woman and, I have a Black husband does not necessarily say that we have the same beliefs. Right. There is diversity within the representation based on our biases. And, we do this work from an emotional intelligence. People will tell you they probably are sick of me talking about emotional intelligence. But it is, to me, it is the core to this work. And just about any area that you want to affect change, right? We have to understand, our own biases. We have to be self-aware. We've got to understand, why am I programmed this way? Why do I think this way? Why do I feel this way? How do I respond to specific circumstances? And why do I respond that way into those circumstances? And then when you move into that, you better understand yourself. And, I say it all the time, you got to know yourself to grow yourself. So if you're not willing to grow yourself, you'll never be able to enter into relationship with other people because immediately you already have an immediate barrier up, right? And so it's extremely important that we begin, this self-awareness work. And once we move from self-awareness, then really say, okay, in order for me to know what the best approach is, maybe I need to sit down and have a conversation with an individual in regards to understanding their perspective, right?
Absolutely.
And how to respond to that. And I think, and that's how you build empathy, right? Not sympathy. I'm not sympathy, but empathy, right?
Right. Exactly.
We need empathy, not sympathy. We've all experienced, this is what we know. We know we all have experienced trauma on one aspect or another, right? From a white person's view, you've experienced trauma because you may not have necessarily understood that this power and privilege that you have, right? But then from a Black person's experience who has been, at the table and may have received rejection or trauma or hurt or drop, whatever it may be. And so what we know is that it's humanity. It's humanity versus racism. And when it comes to businesses, what I feel like is essential to a lot, once you make that acknowledgement, it is time for you to repair, right? And a part of that repair work is doing an audit. That's very simple. Just doing an audit. I mean, we've been hired over these last several weeks. I can't tell you the number of times we've been hired just to come in and just do a cultural competency assessment. Help us to understand where we are, and then how do we move forward? And once we can do that, right, we can acknowledge that, we can begin the repair work, then can we begin to put strategies and supports in place that will help us to build that relationship and empathy? And that's, once we do that, if an organization does that, I promise you, we will be much better off.
Absolutely. I fully agree with the importance of the emotional quotient, from an individual perspective and an organizational one. You're spot on. And, so with the work that Canopy's doing right now in regards to the 27 campaign, a lot of that, as you mentioned, is focused on the 27 days of learning. And you really touched on, a piece that we've been promoting recently, which is, to start the studying that should have been done a long time ago. And it's, a recognition that this should have been done a long time ago, and let's start now, or let's, continue to build up now. And, I always will say the best time to plant a tree is 25 years ago. The second best time is right now, and so there's no time like the present to get moving on that. And so, Lettie, in some of the work that you've been doing, and especially now, work that you're helping organizations with in their pursuit of racial justice within the workplace, talk a little bit about, how leaders can take actionable steps to create a more supportive and inclusive space, especially for their Black team members.
Yeah, good question, Ben. I think first of all, there has to be some commitment in terms of doing the work, right? It's extremely important that where we are now, there is no, I'm gonna walk in the middle. We have to commit to do the work. And so, I absolutely believe that once you commit to do the work, if you really just open your eyes and just kind of just look around you and just begin to acknowledge, the realities of who is on your team. How do we engage and really set intent around inviting more people to be a part of the team, as well as really just honing in and saying, you know what, once we're diverse, how do we empower this voice of this individual to connect, right? So really building out this foundation of the voice, right? Helping them to establish their voice, and not only establish their voice, but supporting them in decisions, allowing them the ability to have buy-in in the decision-making process. And then once you do that, right, connecting and having the tough conversation, right? Committing to the tough conversation. Like, I think it's very important that that we don't shy away. I think we need to engage more now than ever. Invite the conversation and really own what we're faced with, right? Be honest, be transparent, be authentic, and really say, listen, you know what? I don't have all the answers, But as a leader and a person who is a human being, I want to enter into this relationship so that we can build out policies, practices, and activities, events, so that they align with and connect with the people that you are serving, and you're working alongside with. I think that is so important to have an open door policy. And then I think it's also extremely important to really develop an ear for listening, right? And when I say an ear for listening, right, we hear through our ears, but we listen through our heart. And I think connecting to one another from heart to heart, and really helping people to understand that, I don't have all the answers. But what I do know is that what can connect us is understanding the emotional capabilities that are within this. And so, and then standing up and being a voice, right? Ultimately, and empowering that person's ideas and concepts, just helping them to see that, listen, there is great value that you add to this organization. And because of that, we see you, we want you here, we want to affirm who you are, who you want to become. Because oftentimes we work, I coach over 400 people. And part of that is because people have experienced so much trauma. Life has dealt so many cards. And so when you go into a workplace and you don't feel seen, you don't feel wanted, you don't feel heard, it ultimately can cause you to feel like you're not a part of the organization. And I really feel like one of the things that we do as a support, as an organization, when we come in, we do an audit, right? So we look at your cultural competency. We also do emotional intelligence. We look at that. We assess everyone around their emotional intelligence. But then the third thing that we do is we help to break down, there is a difference between having a lens of equity and then being equitable, right? And so what we do is we use the example of, when I don't have on my glasses, I don't have 20/20 vision. But once I put on my glasses, I now have 20/20 vision. And as a leader, I can see further, I can go farther, I can inspire, I can anticipate the challenges that are coming, and invite our colleagues to be a part of the solution building process. And so we really try to help organizations to look at their organization from a stance of, okay, in order for me to really look at my mission, vision, and values, what is my belief system? And when I do that, is it equitable, right? And how do I approach that in every aspect, from dollars to your investments, how you invest in your community, how you invest in your employees, how you invest in other businesses. Especially, there are a number of Black and brown businesses that do not have the capital, and they don't have the capital as a result of the systemic oppressions that have happened. And so we have a duty to absolutely invest in those small businesses and education, so that we can be better and be more aligned and be more equitable. And so we use that as a part of our process as to help organizations to create an equitable lens for their organization.
Absolutely. Well said, Lettie. And, as you're speaking, it really makes me, think of how we and how you help organizations turn good leadership practices into good policies that then translate into something more sustainable for the organization that continues in perpetuity, right? That is something that lives and breathes as part of the organization and continues to evolve over time, recognizing that the starting point is very important, and it is difficult at times to have, some of these conversations, but it's so important to translate that leadership into, into transparent and honest practices, into, soliciting employee input and incentivizing, diversity, equity, and improvement and inclusion to, to improve leadership, to improve your team members, and then to continuously be involved in the community, So you're spot on. And that's what we're, that's what we're working on at Canopy, and that's what a sincere focus of the 27 days of learning is. And I know that's central to your work as well. And so, we have a few minutes left in the show. And before we part ways, Lettie, I want to offer you the opportunity for closing remarks. Please tell people where they can go to get connected with you and your work. And the stage is yours for closing remarks.
Well, thank you, Ben. Thank you so much for just allowing me to be in relationship with you and Canopy, and to really work alongside to make tangible change, right? Because ultimately, that's what I feel like my calling and my purpose is and it's a gift, right? It is a gift. This work we get to do every day is a gift to us, because we get to show up, we get to impart our wisdom and the small nuggets that we that we have, and we get to share that with other people to make a big difference. And so my parting words is that I would challenge organizations to reach out to us, right? We are at www.giftedbydesign.net, and I would challenge them to commit to do the work, right? Beyond just the acknowledgement of a diversity and equity and inclusion statement, right? Or beyond a public statement around the injustices that are taking place, but really move into looking at where are our gaps and how can we close these gaps? And what does our representation look like when we talk about diversity? And then once we identify that, then how do we identify the voice that we want to connect to within our belief system, within our organization? And then move from there into a very tangible way, as we've already stated, whether it is investment in terms of dollars, investment in terms of people, investment in terms of events, activities, education. Really decide what is going to be the best avenue for you to be able to close the gaps in terms of the E&I. Because once we can do that, then we can begin the repair work and really move into a more of a consciousness around being a city of compassion. You cannot say that we are a city of compassion when we in fact are not seeing everyone that is sitting at the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Lettie, for those words, for the work that you do and the person that you are. I'm very proud and glad to be your friend and to be able to work with you at Canopy. Just thank you for being on the show today and for being you. It's a pleasure to know you, truly.
Same here, Ben. Same here. Thank you. Cool. Have a great day, my friend.
Thank you, Lettie. We'll talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, everyone. So that was Lettie Johnson. And as you can tell, she is leading very important work. And so I would encourage you as a business owner, individual, to connect with Gifted by Design to see how they might be able to provide guidance to you, especially now in support of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and supporting racial justice within the workplace and beyond. I am now going to ask everybody who's listening to participate in Canopy's 27 campaign and fund. We recently announced this campaign, businesses in Kentucky coming together for racial justice. And we are recruiting companies to take multiple action steps in support of racial justice in our Black communities by acknowledgement, by examination of internal policies and procedures in order to create a more fair and equitable culture, and contributing towards the 27 fund, which is in turn going to be allocated 100% to Black-owned businesses, entrepreneurs, and educational consultants. And at the same time, we're recruiting businesses to take action. We are offering 27 days of learning, so meaningful content as it pertains to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So please get involved. You can visit canopyky.org to learn more about the 27 campaign. We're calling on all businesses in Louisville, throughout Kentucky, check out our website, connect with us directly, and you can easily get involved. And I am on call to answer any questions and to work with any interested businesses. So go to our website, learn more, and sign up to be part of this important endeavor. And we'll be back next Tuesday with the next Canopy Cafe. I hope everybody celebrates Juneteenth tomorrow in a way that is meaningful to them. So happy Juneteenth. And I hope all of you take care, and we'll see you next Tuesday at 10 a.m. right here. Thank you. Take care.